For centuries, my kind had observed them from afar. Their primitive technology, their endless conflicts, their bizarre obsession with documenting their mating rituals on something called social media. Frankly, it was a miracle they hadn't blown themselves to smithereens with one of their nuclear toys. But here I was, Commander Vex Thorak of the Kra'avian Imperial Fleet, staring down at a single human soldier who barely reached my chest. The audacity of this tiny creature, standing before me with shoulders squared and chin raised like he actually belonged here, among the stars. So, I drawled, my 4 golden eyes blinking in deliberate sequence. A gesture of supreme annoyance in my culture. You are the volunteer, the human, a male specimen with skin the color of our third moon and facial hair reminiscent of our lesser herbivorous wildlife, nodded once. Staff Sergeant Jackson Porter, Earth Defense Force. And yeah, I'm crazy enough to sign up for this nightmare. He extended his laughably small hand toward me. Nice to meet you, big guy. I ignored the appendage. The bonding ceremony is not something to be taken lightly. Human. It is an ancient tradition that will link our nervous systems, our minds, our very essences. Nearly 50 of your people have already failed. Their minds shattered. Porter dropped his hand, but maintained eye contact. Impressive for a species so easily intimidated. With all due respect, Commander, those 50 weren't me. Human bravado. How predictably tedious. Prepare him. I order my subordinates, turning away with a flourish of my ceremonial cape. The deep purple fabric, woven with threads harvested from the singing crystals of Dragoon Prime, sparkled magnificently in the ambient light of our orbital station. A small pleasure, knowing the human was witnessing the splendor of true civilization, perhaps for the first time. Behind me, Porter let out a low whistle. Nice cape, Liberace. Does it come with matching boots? Maillet du camp, Lieutenant Crave, ligne d'arme. Commander, what is a Liberace? I haven't the faintest idea, I muttered, but I'm almost certain it was an insult. The human was escorted to the preparation chamber, where he would be cleansed, measured, and assessed for compatibility. Most humans failed this initial phase, their neural pathways too simple, their psychic resonance too erratic. But we were desperate. The Hive was advancing across the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. The ancient scrolls spoke of a unique power that emerged when our species bonded, a power that had once driven back the Hive 10,000 years ago. Unfortunately, humans were the only compatible species we'd found in our exhaustive search. Something about their neurological structure, primitive as it was, created the perfect counterbalance to our own. In theory, at least. In practice, every attempt had ended in disaster. I retired to my personal quarters, a spacious arrangement with a panoramic view of Earth below. What a bizarre little world. Blue and green and swirling white. Fragile. Temporary. Like all things human. Beautiful, isn't it? I whirled around. Porter stood in my doorway, flanked by 2 of my guards who looked thoroughly confused as to how their charge had convinced them to bring him here. How did you? I began. Talk my way in. He shrugged those narrow shoulders, stepping into my sanctuary uninvited. Your guys are actually pretty reasonable once you get past all the growling and posturing. The preparation chamber, all done. Your docs say I'm compatible. Top marks, apparently. I towered over him, using my full 8-foot height to maximum intimidating effect. You should be resting. The bonding ceremony requires full strength. Porter ignored my intimidation display and walked past me to the viewport. Never could sleep before a big mission. Thought I'd get to know my partner instead. He pressed a hand against the transparent aluminum barrier, gazing down at his homeworld. You planning to save it, or just watching from a safe distance when the Hive arrives? My 4 arms crossed simultaneously, a gesture of defensive indignation. We Kra'avians have been fighting the Hive for millennia, human, long before your kind discovered how to make fire. And how's that working out for you? Porter asked, turning to face me with one eyebrow raised. Because from what I have heard, you are losing. Badly. My upper right hand instinctively moved to the ceremonial dagger at my hip. You would do well to mind your tone, human. I could have you removed from this program with a single word. But you won't, Porter said with infuriating confidence. Because I'm the 50th volunteer, and you're running out of options. The Hive's getting closer. Your weapons aren't cutting it. and your leadership is desperate enough to try linking your fancy alien brains with us primitives. He tapped his temple. Not exactly a position of strength you are negotiating from, is it? I hated that he was right. Supreme Commander Zarthal had been explicit. This was our last hope. If Porter failed, the alliance with Earth would dissolve, and both our civilizations would face the Hive alone. Neither would survive. You are, I searched for the appropriate word, unexpected. Portologid. Thanks, I think. So, this bonding thing, what exactly am I signing up for? The briefing was light on details. I gestured to the seating area, a collection of ergonomically designed hover cushions arranged in a conversational circle. Porter awkwardly lowered himself onto one, his human frame clearly not built for Kra'avian furniture. The bonding creates a psychic link, I explained, settling my larger form across from him. Our minds will meld. Our strengths will combine. You will see through my eyes, and I through yours. Sound sentiment porteur kept. Do I at least get dinner first? I ignored his bizarre comment. Once bonded, we will pilot the Nexus Crucible together, the most powerful weapon in the Kra'avian arsenal. It requires perfect synchronization between two minds. One for offense, one for defense. And that's where the humans before me went splat. Their brains couldn't handle the connection. I nodded solemnly. Your species' minds are fragile, undisciplined. The psychic backlash overwhelmed them. Porter rubbed his chin thoughtfully. So what makes you think I will be any different? I don't, I admitted. But the alternative is extinction. Well, when you put it that way. Porter stood up, stretching his compact frame. When do we start? The bonding chamber was ancient, predating even the Kra'avian interstellar expansion. Carved from a single massive crystal found floating in the void between galaxies, its surfaces hummed with energies beyond mortal comprehension. Circular in design, with a domed ceiling displaying a real-time map of the known universe. It was both a scientific marvel and a sacred space. I could see the center stood two pedestals, facing each other. The assembled Kra'avian High Command watched from the periphery, their expressions grave. They had witnessed 49 failures. 49 humans whose minds had been reduced to quivering, babbling remnants. No one expected different results today. Porter entered wearing the specialized interface suit our technicians had modified for human physiology. He looked absurdly small in our technology, like a child playing dress-up. Yet he walked with the confident gait of a warrior that I wore my ceremonial armor. Black chitin plates inlaid with neural conductors, a crown-like helmet that would amplify my psychic output. We must have made a comical pair, the towering alien commander and the tiny human soldier. Very Darth Vader meets giant mantis. I don't understand that reference, I said stiffly. When this is over, movie night. My treat. Porter winked, an expression I'd come to learn indicated human jest or conspiracy. The high priestess of neural sciences stepped forward, her ancient form supported by both technology and sheer force of will. At 300 standard years, she was the oldest living Kra'avian and the foremost expert on the bonding ritual. The connection once established cannot be undone, she warned Porter, her voice a rasping whisper. Your consciousness will be forever altered. Are you prepared for this sacrifice, human? Ma'am, with all due respect, where I come from, we call that marriage. A ripple of confusion passed through the observing Kra'avians. The priestess merely blinked her 4 eyes in sequence. The gesture for proceeding despite objections. Then let it begin. We took our positions on the pedestals. The crystal floor beneath us began to glow, pulsing with a blue-white light that seemed to beat in time with my heart's. Porter's face was illuminated from below, casting strange shadows that made him appear almost Kra'avian in aspect. Just so you know, Porter said as the energy began to rise around us. If you go poking around in my head, there are some embarrassing high school memories I'd rather you didn't. His sentence cut off as the bonding surge hit us both. Pain. Unimaginable, searing pain as my consciousness was ripped from its moorings and flung into a chaotic maelstrom. I screamed, but had no mouth. I reached out, but had no limbs. I was everywhere and nowhere, disintegrating and reforming in endless cycles. And then, calm, a steady presence, an anchor in the storm. Porter, his mind touched mine, not with the expected fragility, but with surprising strength. Not rigid discipline as a Kra'avian would offer, but something else. flexibility, adaptability. His consciousness bent without breaking, flowed around obstacles rather than shattering against them. Images flooded between us, memories not my own. A young porter, crying as an older human left through a door, never to return. Porter, adolescent, bloodied but standing victorious over a larger youth who had tormented him. Porter, in military uniform, watching his homeworld from orbit for the first time, eyes wide with wonder. Porter, witnessing the first Hive attack on a human colony, the horror and determination that forged his resolve. And for me, to him, my hatching day, surrounded by clutch siblings now long dead in the war. My first command, pride mixed with terror at the responsibility. The devastation of my homeworld, 3 billion Kra'avians consumed by the Hive. The desperate search for allies that led us, finally, to Earth. You have lost much, Commander, Porter's voice echoed in my mind. As have you, human. I responded silently. Porter, call me Jackson. Very well, Jackson. The pain receded, replaced by something unprecedented. Balance. His emotions, so chaotic, so vibrant, complemented my logical precision. His intuitive leaps filled gaps in my structured thinking. We were becoming, hoped I, in the physical world. Observers gasped as our pedestals began to levitate, energy crackling between us in impossible patterns. The priestess dropped to her knees, all 4 eyes wide with astonishment. It is happening, she whispered. After 10,000 years, the prophecy of 2 minds fulfilled. Within our shared consciousness, Porter, Jackson, and I reached a new understanding. So that's how the Nexus Crucible works, he marveled, absorbing millennia of Kra'avian knowledge in moments. It's not a weapon at all. It's a door. Yes, I confirmed. A gateway to dimension where the Hive cannot follow. But it requires perfect harmony to open, a balance we Kra'avians could never achieve alone. Because you overthink everything. Jackson laughed mentally. All that logic, no instinct, and humans act without consideration of consequences. I countered. All heart, no head. But together, we are what the ancients called the perfect symmetry. The bonding reached its crescendo. In the chamber, our physical bodies began to glow with internal light, golden from Porter, azure for me. Where the colors met, they formed a vibrant green that pulsed with life and power. Holy shit, Jackson's mental voice echoed with awe. We did it, indeed. The first successful human Kra'avian bond in recorded history. So what happens now? Before I could answer, alarms blared throughout the station. The tactical display in the chamber shifted, showing multiple red signatures approaching Earth's solar system. The Hive, I whispered both mentally and aloud. They have found us. Supreme Commander Zarthal's voice boomed over the communication system. Battle stations. All personnel to emergency positions. This is not a drill. Through our new bond, I felt Jackson's fear, not for himself, but for his world. For the billions of innocent lives about to face an enemy they couldn't comprehend. But stronger than the fear was his determination, his resolve, his courage. Well, he said, a grim smile forming both in his mind and on his physical face. Guess we're about to find out if this whole perfect symmetry thing actually works. Our pedestals lowered back to the floor as the bonding ceremony completed. We stood facing each other, forever changed. No longer simply Kra'avian and human, but something new, something unprecedented. Ready to save the galaxy, partner? Jackson asked, extending his hand. This time I took it, my massive 4-fingered grip engulfing his 5-fingered one. Together, I agreed. Little did we know that this was only the beginning. The Hive Queen herself had sensed our successful bond, and she was coming. Not just with ships and soldiers, but with a personal vendetta 10 millennia in the making. And she was bringing hell with her. The Nexus Crucible control chamber was nothing like Jackson had imagined. No flash chicken souls. No masi biescreens. Just 2 neural interface pods facing each other within a perfect sphere of what appeared to be liquid starlight. This is it? He asked, voice echoing in the cavernous space. Gotta say, I expected more buttons. Maybe a joystick or 2. I guided him toward the human-modified interface pod. The Crucible responds to thought, not physical controls. Our joint minds will direct its power, right? Min melding alientat. Totally normal Tuesday. Jackson stepped into his pod, watching as the neural connectors oriented toward his spine. Those things aren't going to hurt, are they? Only excruciating for the first few seconds. I replied. His eyes widened. That was a joke, I clarified. Did you just make a joke? The stoic commander thorac. Jackson's mouth quirked upward. The bonding's affecting you already. I hadn't realized it until he pointed it out. Something of his human humor had transferred to me through our link, just as my strategic thinking was now accessible to him. Fascinating, I murmured. Yeah, we are both regular science experiments. Meanwhile, he gestured to the tactical hologram hovering between us, showing the approaching Hive fleet. Big, ugly problem headed our way. Supreme Commander Zarthal's voice boomed through the communication system. Crucible activation in 3 minutes. The fleet will provide defensive coverage until you can open the gateway. As the countdown began, I settled into my interface pod. Neural connectors extended, linking with the nodes along my exoskeleton. Across from me, Jackson winced as similar connectors found their marks along his human spine. Our minds merged once again, but this time without the chaotic pain of the initial bonding. Now we flowed together like twin rivers joining into one mighty current. Whoa, Jackson breathed within our shared consciousness. This is incredible. Through his eyes, I saw the control chamber transformed. The human perspective revealed patterns in the flowing light I'd never noticed before. Through my eyes, he perceived energy wavelengths beyond human visual capacity. The Hive vessels have entered the outer defense perimeter, reported a tactical officer's voice. Estimated time to Earth orbit, 17 minutes. Through our bond, I felt Jackson's surge of protective instinct. His homeworld, so recently discovered by interstellar civilizations, now faced extinction. Not on my watch, he thought fiercely. Nor mine, I agreed. Initiating crucible power sequence. The sphere around us pulsed, particles of light swirling faster. The neural interface deepened, drawing us further into the ancient technology. Suddenly, we were no longer physically aware of our bodies in the pods. Our joined consciousness floated in what seemed like an infinite void filled with stars. Is this normal? Jackson wondered. Unknown. No previous bonded pair has successfully activated the crucible. Before us, a massive structure materialized from the void, a geometric impossibility of angles and dimensions that somehow formed a perfect cube that was simultaneously a sphere. What the hell is that? Jackson's thoughts rippled with awe. The key, I explained, understanding flowing to me from somewhere beyond my own knowledge. The dimensional gateway. A violent shake disrupted our vision as something impacted the station. Direct hit on outer shields. Came a panic report from reality. Hive breakthrough in Sector 7. They are moving faster than we anticipated, I thought to Jackson. The Queen must have committed her personal guard to this assault. You mean the big bad herself is actually here? Coming for us specifically. The Hive Queen has hunted the Crucible for millennia. She fears it above all else. Good. Jackson's mental voice hardened. Then let's give her something to really be afraid of. We reached for the key together. My logical precision guiding the approach, his intuitive leaps navigating the impossible geometries. Where previous Kra'avian attempts had failed through overthinking and human attempts had failed through impulsivity, our balanced consciousness found the correct path. The key responded, unfolding like a flower blooming in accelerated time. Another violent shake, stronger than before. Inner shields at 40%. The tactical officer's voice was strained. Multiple Hive breaching pods attached to levels 20 through 25. We have borders. Through our shared consciousness, I felt Jackson's strategic mind assessing the situation. How long until we can activate this thing? The gateway requires precise calibration. Perhaps 5 of your Earth minutes. We might not have 5 minutes. He was right. The station shuddered again, and warning signals flashed through a neural connection. The Hive was tearing through the station's defenses faster than anticipated. We need to buy time, Jackson thought. Then, with sudden clarity, can we split the bond temporarily? Keep the Crucible preparing while one of us deals with the immediate threat. The suggestion was revolutionary and dangerous. It has never been attempted. First time for everything. Look, I can hold the connection here while you coordinate the defense. You know the station, the troops. I don't. It could kill you, I warned. The neural strain? Got a better idea? Because those ugly bastards are getting closer. I had to admit he was right. With reluctance, I focused my consciousness, carefully separating a portion of my awareness while maintaining our bond. Pain lanced through both our minds, but Jackson bore it silently, his determination flowing through our link. Go, he gritted mentally. I've got this. My physical consciousness returned to my body while maintaining the ethereal connection to Jackson and the crucible. I disengaged from my neural pod, pulling the connectors free with practiced efficiency. Commander, Lieutenant Krav appeared at the chamber entrance, golden blood seeping from a wound on his shoulder. The Hive has breached the command deck. The Supreme Commander orders immediate crucible activation. Status of a human. I demanded, retrieving my ceremonial blade, which doubled as a very practical weapon. Still in neural interface. Life sign stable, but brain activity is unprecedented. I nodded, unsurprised. He's holding the gateway. Alone. Krav's 4 eyes widened in sequence. Utter astonishment. Impossible. No single consciousness could. He is no longer just human, I interrupted. And we have work to do. The corridors of the station had transformed into a war zone. Bodies of both Kra'avian warriors and Hive drones littered the path to the command deck. The air stank of ozone, blood, and the acidic ichor that serve as Hive circulatory fluid. Through it all, I maintained the thread of connection to Jackson. His consciousness was stretched thin, but holding. The gateway was nearly 60% calibrated that we fought our way through 3 Hive assault teams, my ceremonial blade proving its worth against chitinous exoskeletons. Lieutenant Krav and the remaining security detail formed a wedge around me, pushing toward the command center with desperate intensity. Commander, Krav shouted over the shriek of Hive bioweapons. Look, through the viewport at the corridor's end, I saw it, the Hive Queen's personal vessel, nearly twice the size of a standard Hive destroyer. Its surface bristled with biological weapons and sensory appendages. Unlike the practical designs of most Hive ships, the Queen's vessel was ornate, almost Gothic in its twisted complexity. She came herself. I breathed, understanding the honor and the danger this represented. After 10,000 years, she came herself. In our shared mental space, Jackson sensed my recognition. That big ugly thing is their queen bee. Yes, and she has never personally led an attack in recorded history. I'm flattered, he thought with grim humor. Gateway at 72%. How we doing out there? Poorly, I admitted as we dispatched another wave of drones. The station will not hold much longer. We reached the command deck to find a scene of carnage. Supreme Commander Zarthal stood at the central tactical display, one arm missing, another hanging useless at his side. Around him, a handful of officers fought a desperate holding action against waves of Hive drones. Thorak, Zarthal roared upon seeing me. The crucible, why is it not activated? Soon, I promised, joining the defense line. The human holds the gateway. Understanding dawned in the Supreme Commander's ancient eyes. He survived the neural load? Remarkable. He's more than survived, I said, decapitating a drone with a practice swing. He's excelling. A massive explosion rocked the station, throwing several warriors off their feet. The main viewport cracked, emergency force fields barely containing the breach. Direct hit on the station's power core, reported a surviving tactical officer. Catastrophic failure in 5 minutes. In our mental link, Jackson absorbed this news with surprising calm. Cutting it close, partner. Gateway at 89%. We need to accelerate. I thought back. The station is dying. I'm pushing as hard as I can. This thing wasn't designed for shortcuts. The command deck doors exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris emerged a figure that haunted the nightmares of 1,000 civilizations. The Hive Queen. Standing nearly 12 feet tall, her form was a hideous amalgamation of every species the Hive had consumed over millennia. Primarily insectoid, with a narrow waist supporting a massive thorax and abdomen, her upper body featured 6 arms, each different, each taken from a conquered race. Her head bore a crown-like crest of biological sensors, and her face was almost Kra'avian, with 4 eyes arranged in perfect symmetry. A mockery of my people, slaughtered and absorbed into her collective. The last crucible she hissed, her voice a modulated screech that somehow formed coherent words. Finally within my grasp, Supreme Commander Zarthal launched himself at her with a roar of defiance. She swatted him aside like an irritating insect, chitin cracking against the bulkhead. "Your bravery is noted," she said, stepping further into the command center. "Your species will make a worthy addition to the collective." Through our link, I felt Jackson's horror at the Queen's appearance. "What the hell is that thing?" "The end of all free life in the galaxy," I responded grimly. "Unless we complete the gateway." 95%, he reported. "Just need a little more time." But time was the one resource we did not have. The Queen advanced, her guard forming a protective phalanx around her. Krav and I stood our ground, the last line of defense. "I have consumed 1,000 worlds," the Queen announced. "Absorbed the knowledge and strength of countless species. Did you truly believe your primitive bond could stop me?" "Worth a shot," I replied, channeling some of Jackson's defiant humor. She tilted her head, compound eyes flashing with malevolent intelligence. "Interesting. You have been tainted by the human mind. How distasteful." With blinding speed, one of her arms, this one resembling a spiked tentacle, lashed out, impaling Lieutenant Krav through the chest. He gasped, golden blood spattering the deck, then collapsed as she withdrew the appendage. "Their deaths will be painful," she promised. "Yours will be eternal." In our shared consciousness, the gateway reached 98% calibration. Almost there. Almost. An idea formed between us, neither fully mine nor fully Jackson's, but born of our perfect symmetry. "The station's going critical anyway," Jackson thought. Yes, I agreed, understanding immediately. The containment failure could provide enough energy. One hell of a bang. Indeed, we needed no further discussion. This was the advantage of the bond. Perfect comprehension, perfect trust. I raised my blade in challenge to the Queen. "You seek the crucible? Come and claim it." She hissed with pleasure, thinking me desperate. As she lunged forward, I ducked beneath her attack and sprinted for the emergency control panel near the tactical display. "Containment override," I shouted to the dying tactical officer. "Authorization Thorac Prime Nexus." Understanding dawned in his eyes. He nodded once, entering the command with his remaining strength. "Power core containment override accepted," announced the station's artificial intelligence. "Catastrophic release in 30 seconds. The Queen shrieked with rage, realizing my intention. "Stop him." Too late. In the crucible chamber, Jackson pushed the gateway to its final calibration point. Our minds rejoined fully, the sensation of completeness overwhelming in its intensity. "Ready, partner?" he asked. "For extinction?" "Always." Together, our consciousness directed the crucible's power. The key turned, reality folded, and a tear opened in the fabric of space-time. Not in front of the Hive fleet as originally planned, but beneath them. Beneath the station. Beneath everything. A dimensional gateway, spanning thousands of kilometers, precisely positioned to catch the Hive Armada, the Queen's flagship, and our doomed station in its maw. "Core containment failure imminent," warned the AI. 10 seconds to detonation. The Queen's rage transformed to fear as she finally understood. "You would sacrifice yourself? You're human? Your entire station? To end you?" I smiled, feeling Jackson's influence in the expression. "Worth it." 5 seconds. Through viewports and sensors, we watched the massive gateway bloom like a flower of distorted space-time, swallowing Hive ships by the dozen. 3. The Queen lunged for me, but it was too late. The station was already half consumed by the portal. 2. In our shared mind, Jackson and I stood together at the precipice of something beyond understanding. "Been nice knowing you, big guy," he said. 1. The honor was mine, Jackson Porter. The station's power core detonated just as we fully entered the gateway dimension. The explosion, magnified by the dimensional energies, created a chain reaction that collapsed the portal behind us, sealing the Hive Queen and her entire invasion force in a pocket dimension from which there was no escape. That we did not die. Instead, we found ourselves elsewhere, a realm of pure energy and thought, where the distinction between Kra'avian and human seemed trivial and small. Around us floated thousands of spheres, each containing what appeared to be an entire universe. "What is this place?" Jackson wondered, his consciousness still linked with mine, despite the transformation we had undergone. The crucible's true purpose, I realized, knowledge flooding into our joint awareness. Not a weapon, but a seed. A seed for what? New beginnings. Before us stretched infinite possibility. Universes waiting to be born, realities that could be shaped by thought alone. The Hive Queen was trapped in her own pocket dimension, unable to threaten any world ever again. And we had become something new. Neither Kra'avian nor human, but the first of something greater than either. So, Jackson's essence radiated what could only be described as a grin. Saving the galaxy wasn't the end of the mission after all. Merely the beginning, I agreed. Are you ready for what comes next? His consciousness merged more deeply with mine. Our perfect symmetry, now eternal and unbreakable. Let on, partner. We have got universes to build. Behind us, Earth and the Kra'avian worlds continued their existence, safe from the Hive threat, never knowing that their salvation had come at the cost of two individuals who had dared to trust across the boundaries of species and thought.